There are very few things that have impacted the way that the federal government delivers services to citizens more than cloud computing. I'm Francis Rose with Scoop News Group. Here to talk about cloud's impact on the public sector is Wei Luo. He's the Deputy Chief Information Officer at the Federal Election Commission. Wei, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. How has the cloud enabled you and your colleagues at the FEC to make improvements in the way that you deliver services?
Yeah, our agency, FEC, we have a mission to protect the integrity of campaign finance process. Currently, when we see over campaign finance reporting and other statements from 16,000 committee and other filers, so one of our key core mission function is to make sure this campaign finance disclosure document available and data available to public in a timely, reliable, and accessible to the public, so the public can make informed decision during the election process. So for the past several election cycles, we noticed there's a steep rise of campaign finance transaction data. And for that, I'll give you a little context. For past several election cycles, every year, reporting the transaction data to our agency double. So to meet that kind of challenging, so it started with 2015, and then we work on to migrate our website, including the back-end primary database to the cloud. It's because to meet with the challenging ever-growing data. Right. So by the 2018, we have a brand new website and primary database hosting for the website in the cloud. So that actually really make a huge impact on our mission, because we was able to deal with historic high level of transaction data for 2020 election. In the 2020 election, we process and receive over 600 million transaction data. Okay, so to put that into context, it is a 5 times compared to previous presidential election, 2016, which only have 120 million records. So luckily we are in the cloud, and the cloud is scalable in helping us to achieve the mission better. And then I can proudly tell you that during this 2020 election season, not only we process this large data, and also the requests to the data have been increased. And then we was able to achieve 99.99% uptime during that period of time while we process all the data. So really cloud have been our main supporting platform to be able to deal with this ever-growing data.
Yeah. How did you analyze those problems beforehand? You talked about some of the issues that you had before the cloud transition, and how the cloud transition with the website and the database retrieval and so on, how the cloud helped address them. How did you analyze beforehand what your problems were and how you would address them in the cloud way?
Oh yes, that's a great question, because I joined FEC 17 years ago. So my primary job is to make sure we have enough system power to support an election. That's very clear what my job actually main function is. So luckily I have a group of really experienced engineer, DBA team, and then also I have a subject area expert. So what we do is that prior to the election season, we do the prediction. We project data, what data we'll deal with. And then we build a system that's prior to the cloud. We build a system to support that data. Right? So we actually purchase server, buying a license, put into place, waiting for for the data to come. So that is how it works. But that, of course, it ran into several problems, right? So sometimes you not plan enough, you never know what you deal with. And then you run out, you had to patch. Basically, I had to steal the server or somewhere, patching it, make sure we don't experience the downtime during the critical fighting period. And the second thing, of course, sometimes you over plan it. Right? There are some server we purchase in there and then really not fully utilize it. right? So on top of that, that's another thing. You talk about projection. Another thing about how our system work is very seasonal. So during the fighting period, you got this interesting pick up, and then after fighting period is going down. It's really not like a straight line thing. So even like we plan it very well, let's plan to the cloud environment, and you still has a server running idle during the non-peak period, right? The cloud really become the best choice for us because we can really run up, run down based on the load. And then also like we only pay for what we use, right? So if not peak period, we kind of scale down. Actually, for the 2020 election periods, we have this, we call it like auto scale, like automated scale, right? So when we detect the usage and the data coming, it will be spin up like a serial server. When the activity on, we spin down. So let's make a huge difference between like, prior to the cloud and after the cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of the outcomes that you've already achieved by moving to the cloud, the added capacity that you were able to achieve and the better response to citizens for the website. What are some of the other outcomes that you've seen as a result of some of the cloud moves that you've made, Wei?
Yeah, that's some other thing, in addition to, of course, scale up the thing. One thing I feel really impressive what cloud bring to us is like, it really helping us to speed up innovation. So let me put that into another context. I mean, prior to the cloud, when we do a new project, let's say we wanted to have new service, right? We start a project and then we spec out a server, we buy that. That's for that specific project only. But for the cloud, you bring the engineer into the cloud and literally just like you bring the kids into a candy store, right? You have whole kind of existing native like technology available they can play with. I mean, we talk about innovation. Innovation, our agency is really encouraging innovation, but at the same time, innovation is not cheap. Prior to the cloud environment, you have to kind of buy server, buy anything on that. If it doesn't work out, you have a lot of investment throw away. But right now, after we move to cloud, we actually set up a sample account for people to kind of try out this thing. Right? I mean, let me give you a good example of in the 2020 election. In our website, we have a brand new feature we call the Campaign Finance Data API. Right? So Campaign Finance Data API is for like advanced data user, like a reporter, and then of academic researcher. They can pull the data through our API. And then instead of they have to download our raw data and build their database. So then now they can just plug into the API. To do that, it's very difficult without the cloud environment because you have, you don't know the load, and you don't have all the different kind of new technology to try out. I think so. I think one huge impact cloud to us as agency is really encourage kind of innovation. People started to really bring in using. Actually, started from next year, we started looking at AI and machine learning, try to using that because to do that without the cloud it is difficult. And another thing I wanted to mention is about that cloud actually bring to us a better security. And so for us, even though the campaign finance data is publicly available, but integrity the data and availability is top priority. So we are very small. Our agency like less than 350 people. So IT is very small, but we still need to protect the data. Right now, because cloud has like a shared service, the shared model, the technology. So when we hosting our system, be part of cloud hosting, I feel like we are tagging to like really the top security engineer because they are the team, they're part of the team to protect the system, not just us, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a shared security model. For example, our website right now is hosting on cloud.gov. Right? So our team actually just responsible for making sure an application is secure. The cloud.gov engineer make sure the platform is secure. So this kind of shared model is really kind of enhance our security.
What is the biggest or maybe the two biggest lessons that you learned, and how will you apply them to where you go next with the cloud, Wei?
Yeah, so this may not be new because cloud migration is kind of everywhere now. So I think for my experience, I've been leading cloud migration started 2015. So number one thing is really is executive sponsor. Because the cloud migration, a lot of people thinking cloud migration just like moving from one data center to cloud data center, which is not true. Cloud migration is really a transformation effort, right? It requires a lot of change. It requires changing how the operation work and how the team work, how the culture work even like, from the traditional, like, your assistant team, application team, now it become DevOps, all the changing. And on top of that, cloud migration is also not cheap, especially during the period of time you have this migration bubble, right? So all that thing require executive sponsor, right? So that's probably number one thing I learned out throughout this. Without an executive sponsor, it's difficult because you have to kind of pay in front to migrate to the cloud, then you have long-term saving. Right? So that is something I really feel. And then I also come out from there. And another thing I wanted to bring up can be helpful for others who are doing the cloud migration is only about a skill set. Right? So, in the beginning, I do have the same kind of worry. I said, okay, how do I maintain it even after migrate to the cloud, right? It turned out to be, if you follow the best practice, your in-house staff is the best resource, right? So during our cloud migration process, we also have like operation work stream. We look at the current operation compared to what future operation can look like, and then our people work stream, looking at how to reskill that. It turned out to be really, really good. So if there's something I want people to kind of to be confident about your existing staff. So that's a really good thing. And then for the next step, if you're grouping the FEC application into a really high level, we have 3 different buckets, right? One is a public access to our data, we call it website, all the disclosure behind that. That's the first one, I call it receiving data. We call it electronic filing platform. And the middle piece is everything else, and all the mission critical application using by FEC staff, right? So website is already in cloud and it's being in there. Now we're working on it more than our electronic filing and internal application filing. So we call it IT modernization, right? So I'm leading on that effort. I think starting from next year, our primary kind of like all that mission critical application will be in the cloud. So really it's a transformation effort. So I make sure the teams align and all the operation get change everything. So that's what we're working on.
Wei Luo of the Federal Election Commission. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.